Here at Central Texas Gardener, we run into a lot of people who think that succulents are the easiest plants to grow. Well, sure, they can be, but like anything else, you've got to treat them right. Today, Jay Arredondo from Desert to Tropics puts us on the right track to growing spectacular containers. How are you doing, Jay?
Hi, John. I'm doing great. Thank you.
I got to start out with this because I am not an expert on succulents. And what is the number one issue that people seem to have, in your opinion, when they're trying to grow these beautiful plants?
The number one issue is watering, and it's overwatering. And people like to water their plants like ivies and flowers and everything else on a regular schedule. If it needs water, doesn't need water, people are putting water and it works for them, but for cactus, it just does not. And so what we want to do is let your plants dry out between waterings and make sure they're nice and warm and a well-lit spot, and it's better to water them less than water them more.
Okay, so that's key. So overwatering is just the main thing you see.
It's the main thing, and the problem is also is when the plants get too much water and the roots begin to suffer, people's natural response is to want to water them more.
Sure.
And then that does even more damage.
So it's a vicious water cycle.
So, yes.
So let's talk about some of the other things that you just mentioned. So light is key, right? I mean,
Light's key for sure.
so if you're taking some of these home, usually I know I've seen them, they're in a greenhouse or something like that. There's a lot of light, but maybe people put them in too much shade. What's really the best condition for some of these?
Well, for cactus, they can certainly take a lot more light and even heavier sun, especially during the summer. The succulents, the leafy type of plants, they like dappled light. In spring, they can take full sun, but as we get into the summer, when it gets blazing, they like to be backed off under like patio light,
Okay.
under tree light. If they've been acclimated in spring, some of them can definitely take full sun situation all year round. And but for the most part, the succulents, they're going to appreciate a little bit of shade. It's kind of like if your skin's burning and that sun's beating on you, the plants are feeling it the same way, the succulents, and they just can't cool off as a normal like other plants may with the thinner leaves. They have a lot of water in them, it heats up.
Right.
And so they choke. And so you just want to give them a little bit of extra, a little bit of shade to help, give them some sun protection.
Every plant loves its soil, and there are specific soil types. What's best for succulents?
Everyone can have their own recipe. The one main thing that they all should have in common is good drainage.
Okay.
And so it can be, a peat moss based, it can be a compost, organic type of soil. It can have, gravel, rocks, whatever, things to lighten it up, perlite even. But the main thing is you want to have it lightened up where the roots can drain.
I would take it if we're overwatering or if it's not draining, those roots are becoming too saturated and you're getting root rot, or is it?
They breathe also. The roots breathe. They have a oxygen exchange. So when they are smothered, they can't take in the oxygen like normal, and that's what makes them suffer.
Okay. On par with that too is the container you're going to put it in, because I know I've seen some really beautiful pots or whatnot that look great, but I've noticed some of them maybe don't have drain holes. So what pots would you suggest when you're looking to do this?
Yeah, any pots will work as long as they've got drainage, or if they don't have drainage, you want to put a really thick layer of rocks underneath it, so the rocks can help wick out some of that water.
Okay.
And leave the upper portion, where it can dry.
You still would want to be careful about overwatering there too, right?
Yeah, definitely so, because if you really saturate your pot, you can literally fill that pot up where it's just completely full with water. And
Okay.
so that's something you'll still want to think about. If you're just lightly watering your stuff regularly, that may work. But ultimately, I think the drain holes, take care of that right away. But if you can have drainage, that's a plus.
Okay.
You want to have drainage, that way you're not trying to figure it out. They can be plastic, they can be terracotta, they can be steel even. And but the important thing is just to have the drainage.
With some of those pots too, if they don't have a drainage hole, then you could, even if you love the pot, you could probably make a hole, right?
Yeah, I've done that countless times where, you know, you can just get like a masonry type bit.
Right.
And you can drill a hole or 2 or 3 or however many, depending on how big your pot is. And that takes care of the problem.
And what about fertilizing or food for these plants? Do you need to do, I would assume maybe that might be another problem too, is they think, oh, it's not looking good, I need to give it some more. What do these plants really require to thrive?
They do obviously eat food. They consume food that helps them grow. And so periodically, you know, you can fertilize with any kind of fertilizer. You can incorporate like a time release, you know, fertilizer in the soil. You can put manure in the soil, and any of it is going to help.
Okay.
Anything is going to help, and they don't need a lot of it because
Right.
they're not making big bushes of, say, like a big tomato plant or
Right.
or something like that. But you will definitely see some great results with giving some extra food.
What about cold hardiness? What about these with these guys?
Well, you know, here in Central Texas, we have winters where they're mild, and some we have
Right.
where, you know, like just a couple weeks were like 5 degrees. So anything at 5 degrees isn't going to make it, and I'd really like to say, you know, have better, you know, wishes for that. But for freeze temperatures, if they're in containers, I would bring them in,
Okay.
or you know, bring them under a patio cover or somewhere, or even cover them up.
Right.
And the cactus will fare better
Okay.
during a freeze than the succulents. And so the best thing I would say is keep them dry
Okay.
and cover them up or bring them in.
Okay. And then let's get to the fun part of it. If you're going to do a dish or container design, like how would you approach that? Because I've seen some beautiful examples.
Thank
here.
you. Color and texture is where you want to, you know, start. And
Okay.
so if you have, you know, 20 plants, but you can only fit 10 in a pot, well, you want to have some height, you know, some low-grown plants and some colors. So as you can see with some of these right here, we chose a number of different kinds and with all different colors. Pack them in real tight. They look super good to begin with. Or if you want to start smaller with smaller plants and let them grow in, you can certainly do that. But pretty much with the succulents, anything's going to go. Some might overpower.
Yeah.
You know, might get a little bigger than, you know, some of the other ones, and you know, you just kind of have to figure that out as you go along. But for the most part, for the first few months, whatever you put together, it's gonna stay reasonably the same for a while before you have to start thinking, okay, this is getting bigger, or you know, this is not doing well, or whatever. But by far and large, you know, the succulents are going to take the same amount of care, and they should progress about the same.
Okay. And then what are some, for people who like the ones that do flower, what are some, a few of the best flowering species, you think?
Well,
varieties.
That, you know, the Echeveria, which are in the ones that do have flowers on them right now, those things are reliable bloomers, and they're really nice because they have different colors, and they hold them up on big long stalks. Some of the cactus that we have here that are currently blooming are spring bloomers. Some are fall bloomers. Some are summer bloomers, and so those are kind of seasonal. I'd love to say, you know, they're flower like rose bushes, where once the season starts to the end, they're constantly doing it.
Right.
But they kind of do them in cycles.
They're ephemeral, so they're here and there.
Sure.
Okay. And so you've got some wonderful plants here, and they're just absolutely stunning. Where can people find you?
Oh, well, almost everywhere here in Austin, Central Texas. You can find these plants at a number of local nurseries here, and of course we can also find them at Desert to Tropics, and that's where we grow it all, and where all of it's contained. And if they're not at the nurseries, we can definitely find it at our place.
Wonderful. Well, Jay, thank you so much for coming in today. Absolutely gorgeous. Appreciate you sharing your insight with these beautiful plants.
All right, thank you.